What is up, guys? This is PVM Virgo, and welcome to another episode of Kerbal Space Program. As you can see in that amazing intro, we're going to be warping in time to find the perfect angle to leave for Duna. Because we're going to be going there, going to go to Duna. Might go to Ike if we have enough Delta V, not really sure yet. We do have a vehicle built for the expedition, and it has, well, quite a lot of Delta V. It's got the most out of any craft I've built yet in this series, so that will be, well, very, very good. However, this is not the craft that we're sending up right now. This is something I just cooked up really quickly. It's called the Blow Curve. It stands for Booster Launched Outer Kerbin Exploration and Reconnaissance Vehicle. And that's exactly what it's going to be doing. It's going to be taking care of most of our outer Kerbin system needs, like going to the moon, going to Minmus, and all that. What we're using it for today is we're putting on a little bit of a test run. We're going to have it pick up Jebediah, who happens to be stranded on the pole of Minmus. Yes, we're going to use this thing, touch it down over there, and then fly Jebediah back, because it does have two little crew cabins that are empty on there in the middle. Also, in the little contract list, we're supposed to be fulfilling those moon contracts or whatever, but we've done enough surveys. And, you know, heck, half my videos involve surveys, so we're just going to kind of skip over that and wait it out until later. But we are going to have to pay those back, or do those eventually, so this vehicle is probably what we're going to use for that. Anyway, so we have our transfer burn going already. We launched up into space on, well, quite a lot of solid rocket boosters. That's why it's called the booster launched vehicle. And yeah, I like the boosters because they're very cheap. They're pretty, well, not really reliable. Only if you use them in the ascent stage. You can't really use them in orbital stages because that would not work at all. So yeah, standard Minmus approach. We're almost there. And we just have to do a little bit of fine tuning so we can go around the pole. And the nice thing about the pole is, of course, even if it rotates, the pole doesn't move very much. Jebediah isn't exactly at the pole, but he's close to it. So if we aim right at the pole, we should be able to get close to him no matter how many times Minmus turns around as we approach it. So yeah, we just use the maneuver node to kind of help us plan our thing, but we're not going to use maneuver nodes because inclination changes and normal anti-normal changes, sometimes maneuver nodes don't really have the most effective or most efficient burn. See, if you burn inclination, I'm going to do a little burn here, it moves. So if you're burning that same direction, it'll be very, very inefficient to change the inclination. But anyway, Jebediah is waiting, so we need to get there fairly quickly, and there we go. Fairly close to Jebediah. Let's continue with the approach. So yeah, right now we're a little bit a ways from Jebediah, but we're just going to touch down anyway. Not going to do any major changes to our orbit. We're just going to touch down over here in some mountain or valley, and we'll have Jebediah come to us because he does have some EVA propellant to use to just take a little bit of a hop over to us. So you can basically touch down wherever we want on the pole. See, it just says 5 or 6 kilometers there. So we'll be okay. We don't need to land directly on top of him to rescue him. Because it is Minmus, and he can jetpack around in low gravity. In fact, on one of my expeditions on Sandbox, or one of my other careers that I have done before I started recording, you can touch down with a jetpack and return, and it's actually very efficient because the EVA propellant propels them very nicely in low gravity, so you can actually use that instead of an actual lander. That might be a challenge I might do someday. And yeah, I completely forgot landing gear, but it is Minmus, so I don't really need landing gear. So anyway, we're just going to skip over here and touch down. So yeah, here we are, not the best landing, but we have SAS, so we won't tip over. That is until we bring the captain out, because we are going to get some science, because we have not gotten science on the poles yet. We've got it on the flats, so that means we're going to get double science. Another great thing over this trip. Hooray! So yeah, Jebediah is a hero. Look at him, he's just flying through the air. he's going to be so high up in, oh, not the air, and it's kind of a vacuum, but he's flying so fast through the vacuum that he can almost time warp because he's so high. And yeah, we can time warp there. Look at him. He's flying through the sky towards the block curve. So yeah, majestically flying with a jetpack. I wish I was him. Actually, I wouldn't wish I was him because I'd be, well, not in my best mind if I were to fly over 3,000 feet up in the air. So yeah, can Jebediah get it in one hop? One jump is all it takes if you're a Kerbal. He's just looking for the side that has the door because he has never seen this craft before. And that rhymed, I'm a poet. Score. But anyways, not concerning poetry of any kind. We're just coming back here. About to do our first test of the side-mounted parachutes. Because our rocket's actually not symmetrical. And look at those decouplers, that looks beautiful. But yeah, anyway, besides those decouplers, we're coming down, and as you can see, it's just a capsule along with two other little lander capsules below it, and some science gear in the bottom. That will survive, hopefully. And you can see that, yeah, there's two parachutes side mounted, so we're going to land it sideways in the ocean and hopefully let it float. It just takes away all the shock from landing and all the painstakingly long EVA missions where you have to run around and get the science. But yes, successful test, successful mission. Jebediah has been rescued, and that means that we now have Jebediah, Bill, and Bob ready to be crewed in the first ever Duna mission. And as you can see, the launcher we'll be using, Ares, is a huge rocket. It's got around 10,000 meters per second delta V. Well, just under it actually, like 9,800 something. And it should get us there pretty quickly, to be honest. However, there's one problem. Okay, so we have Protractor installed. It's the mod that helps you angle the planets correctly. But whenever I time warped, I broke the launch pad, so I actually had to revert that because I did not know that was going to happen. I didn't think that my rocket would break the launch pad after a time warp, so we're going to have to actually launch it up there, get it into orbit, and then use a secondary spacecraft to warp the correct angle. But we'll do that after this launch, because this launch, I was focusing a lot on it because we have lots of components, we have lots of stuff falling off of it, we have lots of solid rocket boosters. And well, this is the biggest spacecraft we've ever built. It's 100,000 funds. It's kind of a gamble, but if this mission succeeds, you'll get 300, 400 something funds for this, and a ton of science. So I think it'll be worth it. So for this stage alone, the transfer stage and the lander stage, which is just a normal lander, we have around 5,000 meters per second delta V. And I have some secondary tanks there just to help boost it up into orbit before using the actual fuel in the secondary stage, because we want to get the most amount of delta V possible. And if you're sitting there wondering what delta V is, it means change in velocity. Delta means change, and that means that we can propel ourselves anywhere at a certain speed. So we're just starting the circularization burn. We have our tanks on the side there. We have an asparagus stage that the fuel lines feed into the thing, and then after those are empty, we'll drop them. We'll basically be starting with a secondary stage that was meant to get us into orbit, but it won't have even been used yet. So we'll just use that for the transfer and or slowing down in Duna's atmosphere. Because we will not be going to Ike unless we have a lot of fuel left after lifting up to Duna, because we want to get a surface sample and the Duna mission first before we go to Ike. I kind of wanted to go to Gilly, but we didn't find a contract for that, so we'll have to do that later. But anyways, we got into orbit, so now it's time to get the warper craft out, the warp machine. And we decided to use a plane for this because I kind of wanted to fly over to the little, what's it called, the little airstrip on the island over there. I have no planes in those hangars over there because you can store planes in the little overhanging hangar and then use them for later. So that's what I'm going to do. So yeah, I'm just going to have a little bit of a skip over the ocean here. We're going to skip over most of the flight because it was like 3 to 4 minute flight, and most of it is just taking place over ocean. So I have a few skips involved in this little clip of us flying the warp machine all the way over to its new home. So yeah, coming up on the runway here, aligning ourselves. We do not have any tail. Well, we have a tail stabilizer, but we don't have the back fins with the elevators on it. So it's a little bit finicky when it comes to control, but it is just something I threw together in like 2 minutes to be a warp machine. I have one of these in every world when I use Protractor because it's just a pain waiting to warp around and around on an orbit that is only 120 kilometers up. Since, of course, if you're 120 kilometers up, you cannot warp at like 10,000 times or whatever. You have to be on the ground or very high up, and it's just easier to be on the ground instead. So here we are. We landed on the little dirt road. I'm just using the brakes a little bit. Yeah, just gonna use the brakes. Gonna try to prove my taxiing skills after that. That crash, because that crash was not a very good one. That killed the first iteration of Jebediah. And well, he's back now. Don't really know how that happened, but cannot kill any more Kerbals with crashing of taxis. So yeah, I'm aiming for the left hangar there. It's more than wide enough to accommodate this small little space plane. We're not using like a Mark III grade space, actually spacebound plane, because this is just a regular plane. And it's small, and it can fit nicely into this little hangar. So yeah, we're just going to get it lined up and parked so that we can start the warp. And as we did in the intro, we'll just do that. We're going to skip over a little bit because it was, I don't know, it was like 1 minute or a minute and a half of just watching Kerbin go round and round and round. So yeah, we'll just skip over that. So yeah, back at the main vessel, the Ares, interplanetary bound spacecraft. We made a maneuver node, just rigged it prograde, and yeah, perfect shot straight to Duna. Nice. Thank you, Warp Machine, for helping us get the perfect angle on this. Sarah's making a little bit of adjustments, and then we'll be, well, starting our journey off. So yeah, we're just doing the burn here, and we'll be driving our fuel tanks soon because they're almost empty. And yeah, those are empty now, so we're just going to ditch those. Going to have this stage, the main stage, which is supposed to be used for interplanetary travel, ignite. We are going to start extending the solar panels because we will need those soon enough, because something like around 60 days or 40 days, not really sure, but it's a very long time, and you can run out of electric charge. My first ever interplanetary mission was bad because we ran out of battery. Now when you run out of battery, you can't use your reaction control wheels, and then you can't control your spacecraft, and all you can really use is the gimbal. But then if you use the gimbal, you have to thrust, and then you mess up your orbit. And then, well, you should just basically stay with solar panels or stay with those radioscopic reactors or whatever for electric charge. So yeah, the burn is done. This episode is nearing, and we are on our way. If you'd like to see more Kerbal Space Program, please subscribe. I also do TF2 videos, DayZ videos. Uploaded TF2 recently. I'm going to try to get a DayZ video, and I'm sorry about that because DayZ audio got corrupted, and that was about 3 or 4 hours worth, and I had to reinstall my video software, and now it's fixed. But that's still a lot of footage lost, and I have to get new footage for that. But anyway, join me in the next episode because we'll be arriving at Duna. Right now, we're in interplanetary space. We're not there yet. Thank you for watching. This is PVM Vertigo. Peace out.